This week, dissenting justices did not hold back as the United States Supreme Court made their decision. Justice Sonia Sotomayor and Ketanji Brown Jackson accused their conservative colleagues of ignoring the persistent presence of racism in the United States. Sotomayor wrote the 69-page dissent, saying, part, the decision effectively, quote, cements a superficial rule of colorblindness as a constitutional principle in an endemically segregated society where race has always mattered and continues to matter. Joining me now is 9 News race and culture contributor Shay Johnson. They talk about colored blindness in this dissenting opinion, and that word is still shocking to me that we use that in 2023, because what is that? Is that even possible?
You know, Alex, it's such a, now I'm calling it a double-edged sword, right? Because when you look at the historical reference, colorblindness was not meant for discrimination. But if you look at how we're using it now, it went from a progressive conversation to a conservative conversation. And so I think we have to be absolutely careful when we use this, because we're saying in a hopeful world, we wish people were colorblind, right? And this euphoric world where everyone said, I don't see color, and they actually meant it, instead of I don't see color, and it's a guard to hold racism in place and to make sure we keep systemic things the same way. And so it's really now in the community, they're having this conversation, they say, no one's colorblind. Everybody sees color. But we wish that there were policies that actually represented not being biased towards people of color. And those are two different conversations. And so I think we have to be really careful to say, okay, we're in this nice world where everybody's colorblind, because they're not. But we also know that affirmative action was put there for a reason. And I see both ends of this conversation, you know? Mm-hmm. We have our community that's speaking out and they're saying, there's no way we're going back to this. There's no way we're going this far back. Look at all the work we've done to get here. But then we're also looking at statistics where it's saying maybe this is gonna work in some spaces that have discriminated against people of color, or have not discriminated against people of color, either or, but people will be in the right spaces that actually speak to who they are in their class level, in their economic standpoint. Maybe this is going to put a real blaring light on people that are not hiring us for the right reasons, but simply to check a box.
Sure. And when you look at what affirmative action has done in this country, look at Michigan, the University of Michigan, one of the first universities in our country to, use affirmative action, and the way it increased the number of Black and brown, students at its school, that Michigan gets rid of it and the numbers go down by more than half.
Right. And so I think what we know we're going to see is HBCUs are going to get a lot more Black students coming to them, because they know they're going to be accepted into a space that has really been groomed for them to succeed. So, I think we're going to be on a long road ahead of us. And really, how do we have these conversations amongst community? Because there are two different sides of this. There is a progressive conversation that's happening, and there's a conservative conversation that's happening. So let's make sure we're having the same conversation when we speak about colorblindness, when we speak about affirmative action being gone, and what that actually means for people of color.
Sure. And there's so many people who feel like, well, affirmative action wasn't fair, so I'm glad that you got rid of it. But when you think about it, to say that affirmative action isn't fair, don't you have to go back and look and think about decades of segregation, decades of oppression? Communities don't just come out of that overnight.
Oh, no.
And equality, sometimes you need a step ahead to say, look at me, I'm here, give me the opportunity.
Absolutely.
And when we're not seeing that, how is that going to, what's the ripple effect?
Absolutely. And you're saying exactly what it is. There's a ripple effect of that, right? We know we don't walk into banks and I can't say I identify with being a white woman because they see me as a Black woman. We know we can't walk into education things and have the conversation that we had the same trust funds or the same type of money to get there. So I think that there is, there's a reason these policies are put into place. And I would love to see policies that were really about taking the bias out and really making sure that we're pushing people forward that are ready to be in these spaces. We need policy that serves us, but we also need people to be just good people and actually do the right thing. If we lived in this euphoric world where no one saw color, wouldn't that be beautiful? But that's not our reality.
Sure. I think this conversation we could have for so many, sessions, and we should. We should continue this conversation. When our eyes have to be open, especially in Colorado universities, which, are not diverse as it is. And so they're going to work hard. You have to talk about working hard to diversify, higher education institutions, our own. We'll have to do the same.
And we're going to have to, and now we're going to be able to see who actually honors having diversity in their spaces, right? When it's not a checkbox, when it's not, you have to do this, we're going to see what happens. And then we're going to see places that actually don't want us there and have never wanted us there, but it was a DEI resolution, and that's why it happened.
Mm-hmm. More to come on this for sure,
Yeah,
Shay.
absolutely.
Thank you for your insight as always. We appreciate you. Happy Friday.